Today I'd like to do a video on the topic of emergency preparedness items for bartering and trade. This is a common approach that all of us preppers do as we're obtaining certain supplies. So all of us are stocking up on food, getting various gear, medical supplies, and one particular category is trying to stock up on items that might retain their value to be used in an emergency situation. In most situations, cash is going to be king for that. For example, in everyday type occurrences, if you were to lose your job, for example, you're going to want to have some cash on you to pay bills. You're not going to want to sell pinto beans and trade that to pay your phone bill. Cash in those situations is going to be what you want. And in a lot of emergency situations, it's still going to be of value. A lot of people go with the mentality that cash is just going to be worthless in an emergency situation. But I think there's a lot of emergency situations where you're still going to want to have plenty of cash with you. But there's a lot of different other categories for emergency preparedness items for bartering and trade. Oftentimes you'll move over to the precious metals approach, stocking up on things like silver and gold rounds, and this is a very common approach. Another one might be stocking up on items like alcohol, which, as we've seen in the Prohibition days, people are always going to want to have their booze on them. So for this particular video, I'd like to cover several different categories for emergency preparedness items for bartering and trade. We're going to go more of an overview approach on it. We're also going to do a deep dive in the form of a survey to try to answer some of the questions that I have currently with how to best strategize your emergency preparedness bartering and trade items. I think whatever you decide to do, whether it be cash, whether it be precious metals, whether it be alcohol, you name it, ammunition, I think it's best to have a well-rounded portfolio for those particular items. So let's get started now with this video featuring emergency preparedness items for bartering and trade. With regard to cash, I like following Dave Ramsey's approach of having $1,000 cash available on hand in your home to be used in an emergency situation. And for most emergencies, over 95%, having the cash is going to be what's going to solve it for you, not something else that might be for more of an extreme emergency situation. Most people will probably just have $10, $100 bills, but us preppers, we like having lower denominations of bills. So $1 bills, $5 bills, $10 bills, with the largest probably being $20 bills. You don't want to get into a situation where you're trading and all you have is $100 bills. You might not get your full money's worth with whatever it is you're buying with that dollars. So again, $1,000 cash following Dave Ramsey's method. My approach to prepping has evolved over the years. For example, 5 years ago, I was really into stockpiling on precious metals like silver and gold rounds. I really liked having them. It just felt like real money to me, and I saw it as a good investment. But over the years, I've started to realize that all of this prepping stuff that I'm doing, it's not really the best investment in the world. It's not a good investment for me to buy 10 backpacks, for example. A good investment is buying things like real estate, land, maybe contributing to a 401k plan, your kid's 529 plan. Those are more of investments, making smart stock purchases, for example. All this prep stuff, it's more of an insurance than an investment, kind of like your vehicle insurance, your car insurance, which you're paying into every month, but you're probably not ever using. That's the goal that I have for all the emergency preparedness purchases that I'm making. I'm paying into this as an insurance policy that I hope that I never have to use. But if I do have to use it, I'll at least have some supplies with me. And that's the approach that I've been going with nowadays. So with regard to precious metals, I'm looking at it again as an insurance policy, not as an investment. A lot of the times people come up to me and ask, how much should I be putting in each month into my emergency preps and what I'm stockpiling on? For example, food or whatever it is. And lately I've been recommending just try to figure out what is something that you're already paying to as far as an insurance policy. Maybe you have term life insurance, whatever your vehicle car insurance is. If, for example, say that's $100. I would try to match one of your current insurance policies that you have and then just have your prepping insurance. And so, for example, if you have $100 car insurance, maybe make a goal of having $100 prepping insurance and use that for stockpiling on whether it be food, precious metals, maybe alcohol, or whatever else that you want to stockpile into. And that's just your insurance that you're paying into each month. Again, not an investment, an insurance policy. And that's the approach I've been going with now, especially when it comes to things like precious metals. One of the problems that I have with buying precious metals is that I find that most people outside of the prepping community don't really have any idea of what silver or gold is actually worth. For example, if I were to go up to any family or friend and say, hey, what's the current spot price of silver? They would most likely have no idea what I was talking about, or if they did know what I was talking about, they'd be way off. oftentimes when I show this to someone, they'll say, oh, is that a silver dollar? Is that worth $1? And so it really started to make me question whether I was going to get my money's worth out of investing in these kind of silver coins or gold coins to be used in an emergency situation if people have no idea what it's actually worth. And it made me think, well, maybe I'd be better off buying items like alcohol where they have a better idea of what a bottle of alcohol costs in comparison to a precious metal like silver or gold. The other day I conducted an experiment on my father-in-law, and I gave him a simple question. What would you rather have? This 1 ounce of silver or this bottle of Bullet? He immediately went with the Bullet because he really likes having bourbon and just totally dismissed the ounce of silver, which in this case was the right decision. This bottle of Bullet in the state that I live, which has high taxes, is probably around $35. And this ounce of silver, a few dollars over spot price, let's just call it $21. So in that case, that was the right decision to make. And he immediately said, well, what is that, a silver dollar? Was that worth $1? Of course I'm going with a Bullet. I could drink the Bullet. I can't really do anything with that. And that was his mentality with regard to it. So then the follow-up question was, okay, how about 2 ounces of silver or the bottle of bourbon? Again, he went with the bottle of bourbon because he felt that he could actually use the bottle of bourbon. He had no idea what to do with 2 ounces of silver. And again, he thought it was just worth $2, not $42 or whatever it is at the current spot price. In that particular case, he would have been better off going with the silver if you're just talking what's worth more. And then I went up it again. All right, how about 3 ounces of silver or the bottle of Bullet? Then he started to get a little suspicious and said, okay, I'm going to go with the silver, even though I don't know what to do with it, but I just have a feeling that it's going to be worth more. How much is it worth? Oh, well, it's worth a few dollars over spot price, the silver spot price. Well, what's the silver spot price? So I had to tell him that, and do the math. Okay, this is actually a better deal to have. But I've been running into that situation a lot when talking with non-preppers, especially with regard to what they would rather have when you're comparing precious metals to anything else, whether it be cigarettes, alcohol, ammunition. They have a better idea of what those tangible items are worth when you compare them to something like a precious metal, which I find that oftentimes they don't know what it's worth. So those are some of the experiments that I've been running on the people within my network. Over the past year or so, I've slowly been trying to stockpile on various bottles of alcohol for my emergency preps. Yeah, I like having my bourbon, but I also think it's a fairly good insurance to pay for, to be used in any kind of trade situation. The best thing about it, I think, is that it has a very, very long shelf life, basically indefinite once it's bottled. When it's in the barrel, it can't expire, but once you get it bottled, it'll basically last as long as you need it to. So for the ones that I've been purchasing, I try to go with name brand bottles. I like Maker's Mark, I like Pendleton, I like Bullet. You name it, I'm probably going to like it if it's a bourbon. So the problem with buying alcohol is that you're going to be dealing with a certain clientele that really wants to have alcohol. Also, you might have people that just don't like having alcohol and they would rather have some other kind of item, which is why it's best to have a good, well-rounded portfolio for emergency preps. But those are the main problems that I have with alcohol. Also, I think that it's best, again, to buy name brand recognizable bottles. For example, Jack Daniels would probably be the best one to get for like a whiskey, just because everyone knows what Jack Daniels is. For example, when you compare something like this Jefferson's Ocean aged at sea with Pendleton, or maybe with, let's go for example, with the Bullet, for example, and you were to ask someone what they'd rather have, most people are probably going to pick the Bullet just because they know Bullet, they know that it's good, when really this one's probably 3 times as valuable or worth more, costs more than the Bullet did. So I don't think it's a good idea to buy 2 expensive bottles of any kind of alcohol, because again, just like with the precious metals, I don't think people really know what the value is for those or what you paid for. You might not get what you paid for back if you were to use it in a trade situation. So again, go with name brand bottles. And again, since you're dealing with a certain kind of clientele, I'd only really go with the people, if you're talking with trading, with people that you've worked with in the past that you know and kind of have some kind of working relationship with, maybe longtime neighbors where you've already done some kind of exchange. Like, hey, can I borrow your leaf blower? I'll mow your lawn for you. And doing those kind of things over several years, you'll probably build up some kind of a repertoire with them. And that might be a good person that you can trade with regard to alcohol. So again, I've slowly been starting to stockpile on bottles of booze. There's a lot more categories to go over with regard to this topic. For example, with tobacco, I haven't really been buying a lot of tobacco. Number one, I don't smoke. And number two, most importantly, is that I just find that it expires too quickly. I don't like having to throw the stuff out every year to two. I'd like to spend my money on something that will have a much longer shelf life. The topic of ammunition is always a good one with regard to emergency preparedness, bartering, and trade. It's always going to have some kind of value. But what I'd like to do now is let's just cut this video short here. We'll stop the video, although what I'd like to do now is move you over to a survey that I created. I created a 20-question survey with regard to the topic of emergency preparedness, bartering, and trade items. So I have 20 questions there. A few of them are more demographic type questions to figure out, okay, we talking males versus females? Are we talking people in North America versus Asia? But the majority of the questions are some of the questions that I have currently with regard to emergency preparedness, items for bartering and trade, and just trying to figure out what you think people would be more interested in for emergency purposes, and you name it. So we have various topics on alcohol, on precious metals, on ammunition. So if you could click the link in the description box below, it'll take you to that survey. I'll let this run for a few weeks, and after a few weeks, we'll go over the results. We'll start gathering some analytics, some metrics, and figure out if we can identify any kind of trends for the various questions in there, and then we'll dive back into this topic after a few weeks. So in the meantime, please leave your comments below in the comment section regarding this particular video with regard to emergency preparedness, bartering, and trade. Do you look at all this prepping purchases as an investment or as an insurance? I used to think of it as an investment, but then I started to think, okay, buying 10 flashlights might not be the best investment, but buying 10 ounces of silver might be a good insurance to have, and I might never have to actually need them in an emergency purpose. Just like your car insurance, you might just be throwing that money away, but if you ever need it, it'd be nice to have that kind of stocked up. So again, do you look at it as an investment or an insurance? Also, what kind of items do you like having storing and stockpiling for your emergency preparedness, items that will retain its value for possible bartering and trade? Maybe your strategy with regard to how you would do that. Just leave that below in the comments section. We'll get a dialogue going. In the meantime, make sure that you take that survey. It's again a 20-question one. Just if you could take the time to do that, that would really help me get various data points. Right now, I've been asking people within my network of family and friends. I need a wider net, so I need to go worldwide on some of the questions that I have here. If you could answer some of the questions in that survey, it would really help me out, and then we could get a dialogue going with regard to those results. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video regarding this particular topic. Leave your comments below in the comment section. Take the 20-question survey with regard to emergency preparedness, items for bartering and trade. See you guys next time.